Alright, everybody, and welcome back. We are here for our podcast again on the Normans versus the Mongols. This is the first episode of the series. I know I gave you a preview earlier about 5 things that made the Normans an effective fighting force. But today's is the first episode officially of our podcast, Normans versus Mongols. Now, I want to give you a few guidelines. First of all, this is going to be between Normans under certain leaders and Mongols under specific leaders. The reason I'm doing this instead of a general toss-up is because, first of all, personally, it makes the what-if scenario much more interesting to see two certain leaders clash against each other. But it's also more interesting when two leaders of a very different race, very different fighting tactics, somewhat, and different upbringings and different backgrounds fight each other on the battlefield. So, for starters, we've got the Normans. Now, I want to give a brief history on the Normans from their past. If you already know it, we'll just skip the video forward. I'll leave a timestamp in the description below to where I actually begin. But for brief history of the Normans actually means Northmen. They arrived under the leader Rollo in the very early 10th century. They arrived in France and they laid siege to the city of Paris. Now, at the time, King Charles, who's called King Charles the Simple, was inside and sent out his army to defeat the Normans. Sorry, not the Normans, they weren't Normans yet. Defeat the Vikings under Rollo on the battlefield. And Rollo used a very cunning tactic to defeat them. What he did was he pulled his army away from the city and dug deep trenches and filled it with sod and turf and spikes because he saw the Franks fought on horseback, so he wanted to use that against them. So he pretended to run to his ships. The Frankish army charged down after him, and they fell deep into these pits, and they were easily defeated by the Vikings, and the Vikings marched into the city of Paris. Now, this is something very interesting about the Normans, that they were very known for their cunning, for being cunning and being very effective and vicious fighters. And this is something that stays with them years and years, as years go on, as they evolve from these Vikings who settled in the Duchy of Normandy, which is what was eventually given to Rollo, and they eventually transformed themselves into Franks. You know, they abandoned their own language, they abandoned their old gods, they become, for the most part, French in their dress and in their speech. But they retain a lot of their ancestry of the Vikings and their spirit of adventure and their spirit of wandering constantly. You know, they're always seeking new lands to conquer, new areas to fight. They did not abandon that part of themselves that was in them as Vikings. And here's a very interesting anecdote that I read in the book of the Normans. When Rollo showed up and was given his duchy, he had to, of course, be baptized by Frankish Christian standards. And when he went to the king, to meet the king, they told him he had to bow down and kiss the king's foot, which Rollo, you know, being the macho Viking that he was, did not want to do. He's like, I'm not kissing the king's foot. So he called for one of his lower servants to do it for him, and the servant walks forward, takes a step, and he's supposed to, you know, bend down and kiss the king's foot. Instead, he grabs the king's foot, pulls it up in the air, knocking him back off the stool, and kisses his foot, throws it to the ground, and proceeds to walk off. And so, what Arthur put it, the moment the Normans arrived, they were unseating kings from their thrones. So that's the brief history of how Vikings became Normans. They showed up, they fought at Paris, they defeated a Frankish army, and Rollo said, hey, tell you what, give me some land, which became the Duchy of Normandy, which means, again, Northmen, and in return, I'll protect you from these other Vikings who have been marauding against you. And he does so, he keeps his word, he doesn't betray Charles, and he does it very well. And then years and years go by. Now, in this what-if scenario, we're going to be putting the House of Tancred against Genghis Khan, or Genghis Khan, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation for anybody out there, and his sons. Now, the reason I'm putting these two against each other is because, to me, the leaders in the House of Tancred were not only cunning and efficient at their job, but also they have very good resumes when it comes to the battlefield. I don't think that any of them, except for William Ironarm, actually lost a battle. From what I've been able to research so far, I might find something new. If you guys know anything different, well, give me any feedback on it. Also, personally, I just love the Tancred brothers. I love Robert Guiscard. I love Roger of Sicily. I love William Ironarm, and I love the descendants that came from them. I love Tancred. I like Bowman. I like all those guys. And then on Genghis Khan's side, the reason I picked Genghis Khan, obviously, because he's one of the best Mongol, well, the best Mongol leader according to some. Some people say Kublai was the best leader of the Mongols. Some people say Subutai was the best leader. But the point is, you know, he was the origin. He started it all. And Robert Guiscard and the Sons of Tancred, in their own right, are pretty much, you know, original, because they start off in Normandy, but most of them, I think only about 4 of the sons, didn't leave Normandy. All of them wound up going to Sicily and Italy and conquering it, and eventually assimilating it into the Norman Empire. So there you have it, folks. It's a very brief history on how the Normans went from being Vikings to being Normans, as I said before. And now you know the guidelines to it. It's going to be the House of Tancred against Genghis Khan and his sons. And the reason I'm spreading this over time is because Tancred had 12 sons. So the time frame for how long a war between these two could have lasted is going to last the amount of time a war between these two could have lasted is indeed, it has a big time gap. We are also eventually going to break it down into 5 different scenarios. It's going to be, what if it's just a random battle between them, the sons of Normandy the sons of Tancred marched here and they fought the Normans, a full-scale war scenario, and then 2 separate invasions. Who would win if the Normans under the Tancred boys invaded Mongol territory? Who would win if the Mongols invaded Norman territory? And then who would win if both of them just had one massive all-out battle? And like I said, that is those are the guidelines we're going to do it by. So stay tuned. More videos will be coming soon eventually. I kept this one very brief as possible. I know I have like almost an hour-long podcast on Edward the First. I will be getting back to that. Do not think I am finished. The birthday for Edward becoming king is coming up, and the Battle of Evesham, his victory, is coming up. So expect videos of that as well. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Subscribe so you can get all the content as it continues to come out, and enjoy the video. Thanks for watching.